This video is going to cover everything you need to know about leasing, so let's get started. Here as an example, I have selected a brand new 2022 Nissan Altima as our example, if you will. And I got this example from LeaseCompanion. This is a vehicle that they are giving away at 10.5% off MSRP, but I'll talk more about that pretty incredible deal towards the end. What I want to do right now is walk you through each and every step of what matters so you don't get screwed over when you go into a dealership to lease a car. So we're on the Lease Hacker website. Go to the calculator tab. This is the most powerful tool for leasing. Select the make, Nissan, the months. So typically most leases go for around 36 months. 3-year leases, that's kind of the norm. We have here an 18-month lease, and that's pretty powerful because that means you can be in and out of this car in a year and a half. But you can also trade this vehicle in before the 18 months is up if you wanted to. And this is the biggest misconception people have with leasing. They think that you have to take it back to the dealership that you initially bought the vehicle from or leased the car from, and you have to go through that whole process where they nickel and dime you for every little dent and scratch and tear on the seat. You don't have to go through that process if you don't want to. You can just trade it into CarMax a week after you buy the car. However, that's mostly pre-pandemic. Right now, the car market is hot and everybody knows this. It's ridiculous, and that's kind of why I'm doing this video, to show you how to get good deals on a car. But today, it changes between every manufacturer. I'm not sure how it is for Nissan particularly, but certain brands like GM and I think even Honda, they will penalize you for trading the vehicle in early or trading the car into a dealership that's not a GM dealer or a Honda dealership. Things are starting to change now, but previously, pre-pandemic, you can just trade it in whenever. But certain brands, like I think Ram doesn't really care. You can just trade the car in whenever you want, or to CarMax or to whoever. They don't really care. But that's something you're gonna have to talk to the financing manager about, what the current situation is, and that situation could possibly change even after you buy the car, so keep that in mind as well. But months, that's pretty easy. Mileage, also very straightforward. Most leases go for around 10, 12, or 15,000 miles. We have it set to 10,000 miles here. Also, regarding the mileage, when you sign up for a lower mileage lease, 10,000 miles as opposed to 12 or 15,000 miles, your payment will drop a little bit because your residual value goes up a little bit, because the less you drive and the less mileage is on your car, the higher the resale value of your car. It just makes sense. And you can obviously drive over this mileage limit, right? It's not really a limit. You can just drive over it and just trade into a dealership like I already mentioned if they allow it. If they don't, well, what you're gonna have to do is you pay a certain amount of money over, like 10 cents a mile or 25 cents a mile for every mile that you go over. But again, if your dealership will allow you to at least trade the vehicle in versus going through that whole inspection process, that's the best way. Like if you have a bunch of miles on your car, at the end of your 18-month lease, you have like 20,000 miles on your car, maybe consider just trading it in to a Nissan dealership instead of just having them inspect it. Now, residual value and money factor, these are the two key areas that's really going to affect your payment as well as how much money you want to put down. Also, this video and the numbers that I'm showing you assume that you have perfect credit, such as a 700 credit score or higher. This is why it's imperative that you don't blow your credit off, because credit can lead you into so many opportunities. But residual value, this is relatively straightforward. So right now the residual value is set to 81%. These numbers actually change between month to month and manufacturer to manufacturer. Every manufacturer is different. Every month, even though these numbers change, they don't change drastically. It's just something to note. So this particular Altima that I selected it's an SV model, and the MSRP is $27,500 off because LeaseCompanion is offering 10.5% off. You're getting the car for $24,600, but with a residual value of 81%, which is pretty excellent. That's mainly because this lease is very short term, only 18 months. The car is going to have a higher resale value, right? So that's what we see here. The residual value is set at $22,275. So you bought the car at $24,000. It's now worth $22,000 at the end of the 18-month lease. That means you're effectively paying about $2,000 or $2,400 in depreciation, which is pretty good. That's like next to nothing. So at the end of your 18-month lease, if you happen to like this Nissan Altima SV, you have the option of purchasing the car for $22,275. That's what that means. You can finance that amount. You can just write a check for it after your 18 months is up. That's completely up to you. However, you can see that we are not paying $2,400 for this lease. We are actually paying $6,400, as we see here on the right. Why is that? That's because leases have an interest rate attached to it. And this is what many people don't know or don't understand. And it's called the money factor. This is something that's not widely publicized to everyone. You don't really see this number being shown on adverts on TV for leases. This is pretty much kept away from the public. Like 99% of people don't know about this. So what is this 0.00298 number? That's your interest rate. You take that number and you multiply that by 2,400 and you get what is the interest rate, or what's commonly known as the interest rate, and that is 7.15%. You're paying 7% interest rate for this Altima lease. And the reason for that is because the residual value is super high. So that's kind of what happens with leases. It's always like a balancing effect. When you have a high residual value, you typically have a high interest rate. And when you have a lower interest rate, the residual value goes up, or goes down, I'm sorry. That's the thing with Toyotas and Porsches. Many people think, oh, I can lease a 911 for such a low payment because that's a car with a great resale value, right? That's not really the case. Pre-pandemic, a Porsche 911, yeah, it has a high residual value, high resale value, but they would bump up the money factor to around 7% interest rate. So a car where you should only be paying like $800 a month, you end up paying like $1,500 a month because they jack up the interest so much. But genuinely, this is not too difficult to understand. You have your residual value and you have an interest rate. It's actually pretty similar to just financing a car. It's not that different actually. You know, when you lease a car, it's not yours. When you finance a car, it's not yours. But this is typically where dealerships screw you over, like because most people don't know about it. And if you ask them about this money factor, most dealerships will probably just ghost you. They'll just never get back to you because they now know that they can't screw you over. You are now an educated buyer and they can't get one over on you now. But for the most part, the glory days of super cheap leasing is pretty much over. This is a pretty decent deal, but you know, pre-pandemic, people were getting brand new Toyota Tundras for like $250 a month. I kid you not. BMW i8s at like $700 a month. And one of the ways people did that was through something called a multiple security deposit, or an MSD. So if you don't like this interest rate, one of the things you can do is, this depends on the manufacturer, but let's put this at 5 right now. You can make a MSD payment of $1,500. So you pay that up front, and you're basically paying this $1,500 to lower your interest rate. So as you can see, when you did that, this interest rate dropped from 7.15 to 6.67%. You know, it's a decent drop, right? But you might be thinking, oh, I just lost $1,500 though. You get that money back. Multiple security deposits are 100% refundable. So at the end of your 18 months, you will get that money back. Or if you happen to trade the vehicle in or sell the car before your 18 months, you will get the $1,500 back. That's one of the ways people got BMW i8s for like $700 a month. You know, these cars are very obtainable. A new car is not a unicorn. It's not a fantasy. It is very doable, right? You don't have to gawk at these cars. It's not that unbelievable, right? You don't have to clench your cheeks when you see a nice car. It's very much obtainable if you do your research like this. Now, obviously, you're not going to be getting an i8 for $700 anymore. That was pre-pandemic. I'm just giving you an example. This is why I would constantly preach leasing when I did my car reviews on the channel. So as we go down, you know, you have things like the down payment. I would suggest you put zero money down on a lease. It makes no sense to put money down on a lease. What we have here as a drive-off is the acquisition fees, the dealer fees, taxes, fees, you know, that's what they have here. And you have to pay that, but you don't necessarily have to pay it up front. Let's just change the tax rate to 3% because I'm in North Carolina. And that can change between the different states. Like if you live in one of these states or Virginia, Maryland, Texas, the way they do their taxes is different, but the rest of the states, you can just leave it on this check here. And it's usually just baked into your monthly payment. So the 3% is just gonna be baked in, but you don't have to pay all these dealer fees, government fees, registration. You don't have to pay that upfront. You can do a 0 drive off. Let's set the multiple security deposit back to 0. Let's just say you don't want to put anything down. Your payment for this brand new 2022 Nissan SV Altima is $389 per month, or $6,615 total. You could potentially ask the finance manager to just pay the $6,000 up front, and maybe you can pay $6,000 instead of paying $6,615, right? You can maybe get a better deal by doing a one-pay lease. Because the market is so crazy, I would consider doing a one-pay lease nowadays, because it can drop your interest rate or your money factor significantly when you do a one-pay lease. But if you're okay with doing a MSD, you can get your lease down to $6,400, or you can save about $200 over the course of 18 months with this particular lease. Is this a good deal? Not really. I don't think this is the best deal out there. I get that the residual value is high, so they just bumped up the money factor, but 7% is still a lot. At that point, I think you're better off just financing and taking advantage of maybe a local credit union or even Nissan Financial themselves, because I was also looking at some of the Dodge Challengers, like the Hellcats that they had on the LeaseCompanion website, but the leases on those were also going for around 7%. So at that point, you're better off just financing the car at 60 or 72 months and then selling the car after 18 months or 36 months, however many months afterwards. And that's the beauty of LeaseCompanion. When you sign up and you purchase a car through them, you don't have to lease the vehicle. You can actually just finance or pay cash for the car and still qualify for the amazing discounts, like the 10% off on the Altima and the 8 and 9% off of the Dodge products. But here's the thing, if your income isn't super high, I don't really recommend you taking on the burden of a car payment, because clearly you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're better off following the Dave Ramsey lifestyle and his guidance, or even starting up a small side hustle where you can at least improve your income to the point where you can have a car payment. It's not a big deal, like, you know, selling used clothes on eBay. Plenty of people do that and make like 7 figures, 6 figures a year on eBay, right? So that's something that you can look into. Ideally, this car should be around $300 or like $280 a month. That would be ideal. Back in the day, most people would say you should be paying 1% of the MSRP as your monthly payment. So if the car costs $30,000, you should be paying $300 a month for it. Obviously, with like a BMW i8 that costs over $100,000, to be paying $700 a month is an extraordinary deal. Again, that was pre-pandemic. I'm just using that as an example. And hopefully all of this made sense. If you have any questions, leave it down below. With this calculator, this is located at the Lease Hacker website. Go to the calculator page, you can find this. You can leave pretty much most of this alone. I would leave all these numbers alone, the fees and the taxes, the rebates, I wouldn't touch any of that. Incentives, I would leave that alone. Unless you know which incentives you qualify for. Like if you qualify for military or recent college grad, you can enter that in here. But for the most part, you can just leave it as is. But money factor, residual value, that's the main things you need to understand. And the other thing you need to understand is you have other resources like CarMax or selling the car under consignment to dump it. You don't have to, keep the car for 18 months for the most part, even nowadays. You can sell the car, get out of it, capitalize off of any positive equity there is on the car if you want to. You don't have to take it back to the dealership and have that whole inspection thing going on. You don't have to sit through all that. You don't have to worry too much about the miles and everything if you just go the traditional route. Treat this like a finance and just trade it in. So what are kind of the advantages of this? Mainly it's to lower your monthly payment. In some cases, leasing isn't the best way to do it. Financing the car might be the better way, because in some cases, manufacturers like Hyundai, Kia, Nissan, they'll give you like 0% finance rates. At a catch, you won't qualify for any other discounts, but nowadays there's no discounts going around. And actually, the feds have bumped up the interest rates now too. So yeah, buying a car right now is very painful, and that's one of the reasons why I want to show this to you guys. You don't have to do anything with this information. Just keep it in your back pocket as something to use. And I'll just show you guys the LeaseCompanion thing, just so you know what I'm talking about. You can come to forum. By the way, use Lease Hacker. This is a great resource. There's so much great information here. Don't get Lease Hacker and LeaseCompanion confused. Lease Hacker is a forum. LeaseCompanion is a broker amongst many that use this platform, Lease Hacker, to advertise their services. LeaseCompanion just happens to be the biggest broker, the highest volume broker on this entire website. So this is LeaseCompanion. They have all their information here. Their $500 broker fee, that's what you have to pay for their pre-negotiated deals that are located in Washington, D.C., but they will ship nationwide. Obviously, you have to pay for that. But you click on this, it's a Google Docs, and you can see all of their deals. And yes, it's a little bit jacked up because a lot of people use this website. A lot of people are shopping for cars right now through LeaseCompanion, but just bear with me. So here you can pretty much see all the cars that they represent: CDJR, Lexus, BMW, Audi, Acura, Nissan, Mercedes, and you can see the deals that they're advertising. Keep in mind, you do have to build most of these vehicles to get the amazing deals, like this Jeep Wrangler 4xe, 9% off MSRP, Ram 1500s, TRXs, 12% off MSRP. I think they have the Jeep Wrangler 392 at like 9% off MSRP. It's pretty incredible. Lexus RX 350, 8% off. Here's the Altima I was talking to you about, 10.5% off MSRP. That's probably the best deal that you can possibly get on a new normal car. However, you don't have to lease the car to get that deal. You can just finance a car or pay cash and still qualify for that 10.5% off discount. You just come here, just click the calculator link for one of these cars, like for this Jeep Wrangler, and it'll just pre-populate for you all the numbers. That's the other thing. These numbers, like the residual value, the money factor, where do people get these numbers from? Well, the public typically doesn't have access to these numbers. Even the dealerships don't have access to, like, let's say the numbers for next month. This is May, next month is June. Dealerships have no idea what the residual values and the money factors are for their vehicles for the month of June. But even if you go onto the manufacturer's website, you're not going to be able to find these numbers. So this is one of the few ways where you have access to this information. That's another reason why you should use LeaseCompanion. At least look at their Google Docs, go through their cars, click on the calculator link, have it pre-populate for you so you can see what the residual values and the money factor are. And this can also change between the regions as well. Usually up north, like Washington, D.C., that's where you have the best deals, the best money factors, things like that. And this is pretty much the mechanics that go behind these monthly payments and these deals. So you can see all of that here. And this Lease Hacker score of 10.5 years, the higher this number is, the better the deal. Typically anything 7 years and above is considered a good deal on Lease Hacker. So this is a company that I'm partnered with. I have a link. You can sign up and order some of these cars. You have to wait for the cars to be built. There's a few cars that are in stock, but for the most part, you do have to build the cars. Like the NX 450H, they seem to have some in stock apparently. I don't know, you'd have to call and ask, but they charge $500 as their broker fee. If you sign up with my link, you can get $50 off of that, so 10% off their broker fee. I get very little out of this. I'm just showing you this because I want normal people to have something in their back pocket to use as information, as a guide. This is how leasing works. This is how you can get a good deal on a new car. If you're patient enough, if you build the car, you spec it, you wait, you can get the car that you want at a pretty good discount, and you have a new car on your driveway and it's not unobtainable. But at least this is a way. As long as you have a way to get access to some of these cars, I think that puts you, the consumer, back in the driver's seat. You have power again over some of these dealerships. So that's the most powerful thing about LeaseCompanion. All these deals are pre-negotiated. You know, you don't walk into a dealership, they don't look at you like vultures, right? All of this is pre-negotiated. You don't have to worry, you don't have to haggle anything. You just select your terms, buy the car, sign the paperwork, it's done. They can ship the cars, the paperwork, all that to you. It's all nationwide. So if you want to sign up with my link, it'll all be down in the description box below. So thanks again for watching, and the next video will be on the end screen here.